Hello, everybody. Um, this is Rochelle Bailis, the host of Oh, the Places You'll Know, and I have a very special event today, all about Thailand, a country I lived in for the last year with my fabulous co-host Sarah Barr. So wave to everybody, Sarah. um, So today is going to be a pretty fun show. It'll be hopefully about 30 or 45 minutes, and I'm really glad you guys tuned in. Before we start, for anybody who's watching this event but you don't see a chat box, that's because you haven't actually joined the event. I see there are 8 spectators and 9 actual attendees. If the spectators want to join the event, you have to click the button. There's a little red button that says Join Event. You might have to register or log in through Facebook or Twitter, but I'd highly recommend that you do that um, before just settling to watch it live, because it's a lot more fun if you can send in questions, text questions, or call questions. In order to do that, just hit the little button just above the chat. It looks like a little red box that says Ask a Question. So, today we are talking about Thailand, one of my favorite countries in the world. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the basics of Thailand, and I'm going to get some of Sarah's opinions on things, and open it up to questions from anybody in the audience. Thailand was formerly known as the Kingdom of Siam. I think it changed in the 1930s, and it was named after the Thai people. That's a particular ethnicity of the region. The language is, of course, Thai. Their religion is about 95% Theravada Buddhism, which is different from Chinese Buddhism. It's derived from an Indian form of Buddhism. The population is about 66 million people, and the government is a cross between a parliamentary democracy and a constitutional monarchy. So the head of parliament is the prime minister. His name is Prime Minister Abhisit, last name Vejiva, probably mutilating that. And the king has an equally difficult last name. His first name is King Bhumibol, and his last name I think is Adulyadej, but don't hold me on that. His wife's name is Queen Sirikit, and she was once considered the most beautiful woman in the land. I actually have a picture of them if you want to see. I think that they were a very beautiful couple. He was a little bit geeky, but she was gorgeous. Look at her. King Bhumibol has ruled for about 65 years or so. He's the longest serving head of state in the entire world, which I think is pretty incredible. He's 83 years old and began serving when he was 18. So, yeah, that's a pretty big deal. Fun fact about the king is he's an avid jazz musician and has played with musicians around the world. One thing I will say about the king is the people love him and adore him. And the moment you step off a plane in Thailand, it's apparent how much they love him. Actually, Sarah, maybe you can attest to this, how much the Thai people love their king.
Like undying love. You cannot say a single bad thing. What about the movies? Like in a movie theater, even before you have a movie,
Right?
it's like a national anthem. They all stand up and they have this huge like montage on the screen and like this really ridiculous song that like hurts your eardrums after a while. But if you don't, didn't someone get in trouble?
Yeah.
Like
Oh, how does it go?
one guy like didn't stand up and he got in trouble. Oh, you gonna try to sing it?
I don't think so. No, you're right. I think it was an Australian. He didn't stand up for the anthem and got arrested and sent to jail. I'm not sure if that's an urban legend, but it's still pretty scary. um,
I wouldn't be
but
surprised.
anyway, yeah. Um, anyway, so Thailand is divided into 75 provinces, much like the U.S. is divided into 50 states, except they're provinces, which I think is a really cool name. It reminds me of a fantasy novel or something. Um, but it's actually 76 provinces if you include the capital, which is Bangkok. Um, and it's a special governed district along with the city of Pattaya. Pattaya is a special city. That's one way to put it. Probably the biggest sex trade in the world there. But anyway, Bangkok is a pretty incredible city. Actually, a lot of the viewers tonight have actually been there or resided there, which is pretty cool. We have a lot of friends who've lived in Thailand. And they can attest to the fact that it is a huge, sprawling city. According to the World Meteorological Organization, it's the hottest capital in the entire world out of any capital cities in the world. If you've ever been to Bangkok, that's not surprising. Um, but just in terms of the sprawlingness of it, Bangkok is something like 9 million people, and LA has something like
Mm-hmm.
3,800,000 people. So it has over double the population of Los Angeles. Just wrap your mind around that. And I think LA is sprawling. So I think that's a pretty big deal. But speaking of LA, the name of Los Angeles is, of course, City of Angels in Spanish, and Bangkok is also the City of Angels. It's it's been put in the Guinness Book of World Records for having the longest name of a place in the world. Um, and anyone who's been in Thailand can attest to this, actually. It's, I think, let me see, I think I have it written down here. Actually, Sarah, do you want to try and say this, or do you want me to do it?
Okay. I can tell you what it means in English. I have the English translation. How about that?
Oh, okay. Well, how about this? I'm going to try and read it in Thai, and then you tell us what it actually means. So I'm going to embarrass myself, and you
Okay.
tell us the easy part. Okay. So Bangkok's actual name in Thai is something like this. Krungtep Mahanakon Amon Ratanakosin Mahinatara Ayutthaya Mahadilok Pop Noparat Rachatani Burirom Udom Rachanawitet Matahasan Amon Piman Awatan Satit Sakatiya Watsinukam Prasit. Hey.
Yeah.
What does that mean, Sarah? For the love of God, what does that mean?
That was actually really good. Okay,
Thanks.
it means the city of angels, the great city, the residence of the emerald Buddha, the impregnable city of Ayutthaya, of God Indra, the grand capital of the world endowed with 9 precious gems, the happy city abounding in an enormous royal palace that resembles the heavenly abode where reigns the reincarnated God, a city given by Indra and built by Vishnukarn.
Wow. That blows just the city of angels out of the water. There's like precious gems involved in that one. Jeez. That's awesome. Well, um, as you can see in my really ridiculous attempt to read the name of Bangkok, Thai is a pretty complicated language. Sarah, you could probably attest to this. It's incredibly difficult to learn. We both taught in
Yeah.
Thailand, and most of our students had difficulty with English but thought that Thai was even harder, even though it was their native tongue. So the Thai language, though, is pretty fascinating, in my opinion. A lot of people asked me how many letters were in the Thai alphabet, and I usually kind of made up a number. I was like, 44, I think. But I actually discovered
46.
that, well, what I found out actually is that Thai doesn't have an alphabet. It's not an alphabet. It's an abudiga, which sounds like a made up word. But unlike a normal alphabet system, an abudiga has it's based in consonants, and the vowel notation is secondary. In English, vowels and consonants have the same, basically the same power. In Thai, the vowels are secondary. And so in the Thai abudiga, you have 44 consonants, 15 vowels, and they combine into 28 separate vowel forms. So if that doesn't make you terrified to learn Thai, I don't know what will. But
It's
Thai also has
actually,
different
I
tonal
feel like
systems.
once. Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
I think it is one of those things, like, once you hear it a lot, it's kind of like music, with the tones. And once you just hear it a lot, it's actually pretty simple once you, become familiar with the noise, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's true. What do you think about the tonal differences, though? Because remember, the difference between ha and ha was something like damn and five.
It was like, There are five tones, and remember, I think it was like dog and horse are the same, like ma ma, or something like
Yeah.
that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and by the way, I'm reading some of the chat on the bottom. I encourage any of you to click the button that says ask a question, and you could submit text questions or even call in if you have a webcam. We would love that. It makes this even more exciting than just hearing ourselves talk. So I encourage that. But yeah, I know that I just remember that I brought up ha because I know ha is 5, and ha, it can also mean damn or something, some sort of curse word that you weren't supposed to say. Um, but Sarah, you remember ha being 5 and the way that Thai people say ha ha ha? Actually, I'm going to
Five,
type
five,
that in the
five.
chat box so you can see. Yeah, 555. The number 555 in Thailand means ha 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 because that's the literal translation. I think that's awesome. um, so let's see. I see we have a couple text questions. Um, let's see. Let's take a question from the audience. How about that? The first question is from my cousin Louisa. Great question, Louisa. I've always loved Thai art. Tell me about the museums there. Let's see. Um, I went to the Queen's Handicraft Museum, which was absolutely incredible. Basically, the Queen commissioned all sorts of handicrafts from artists around the country, and they were sponsored by the government, which I thought was pretty amazing. So there were beautiful woven works and a lot of wood carving. Thai teak is really popular um, in Thailand for that sort of thing. I don't know, Sarah. Did you go to any museums when you were there?
Yeah, tons. One that actually stood out to me was called the Prasart Museum. I'll spell it in the chat. But he was this guy, it was his home that he converted into a museum of sorts. And he also created a foundation. And it was his belief that he could educate the young minds to always remember where their culture and where their roots came from. So there were pieces and influences from China and Cambodia and Thailand, and he had like recreated temples and other buildings and statues to show and like represent those pieces of history. And it was really, really incredible, really incredible.
Cool. That was a great question. Thanks, Louisa. Yeah, I think Thai art is pretty incredible. I would say it's definitely different than the U.S. though, because a lot of their art is based on very traditional styles and mimicry. So your art is better if it's based off of traditional art. So I thought that was definitely really interesting and different from the States. Now, especially art is going in this totally different direction in the Western world, but they really value traditional styles in Asia. So I thought that was pretty interesting.